Good afternoon. Thank you for coming to the 149th Founders Day ceremony, and welcome to AUB in this early December. We are delighted to announce today the winners of the Founders Day Essay Award, and we would like these winners to come up and read their essay. This year we had many outstanding essays, but two in particular stood out. Tradition has been that we usually have the winner read their essay, but this year we thought we should have the runner-up and the winner read their essays because they're highly complementary. So the second prize is awarded to Senior Elena Grissom, majoring in English Literature and Political Studies in the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, for her essay, Light, Bright, and Steady. Elena, if you could please come up and read your essay. Congratulations.
Good afternoon. It's a great honor to be here. Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to thank my family, professors, and friends for able to come here. It's great to be up here. It's my last semester at AUB, so it's a good ending to the rich years I've spent here. I have many memories on this campus since my childhood. The title of my essay is called Light, Bright, and Steady. The strange thing about darkness is that just a little bit of light dispels it forever. You don't need a dozen light bulbs to chase out the darkness in a room. You don't even need one. A small flickering flame of a candle will do. Once it is lit, that little bit of light overpowers the shadows and makes peace. The more I see and experience, the more advanced in my studies of political science I get, the darker the world seems to me. There is great beauty in it, though that beauty is often marred with war, destruction, corruption, and selfishness. Recently, the darkness seems thicker than usual, as I open the news and read about a new explosion or a fresh account of the senseless end of innocent lives. To me, though, AUB provides a place for the light of truth amidst the darkness of this tumultuous region. And truth, when shown, is not simply a small flickering flame of a candle, but much brighter and more steady than that. Our founders lit that light almost 150 years ago. It has been shining ever since. AUB's steadiness remained through the Lebanese Civil War when it kept its doors open amongst the raging devastation. It continued through the rebuilding of Lebanon, contributing to the hope rising amongst the ashes. In my lifetime, AUB persevered through the unpredictability and series of car bombs of the Cedar Revolution, through the 2006 war, and the events of 2008. Recently, light was shown on the trash crisis, highlighting the ineffectiveness of our government like never before, as students mobilize to have their voices heard. And I firmly believe AUB will continue to shine through the days and years ahead as a platform for innovation, creativity, determination, activism, and hope. Throughout all these conflicts and crises, AUB has remained a busy beehive where people come, create, teach, and absorb. But the great thing about a beehive, for the bees at least, is that it's a safe place. This applies to AUB as well. The safety we students feel here is unparalleled. Physical safety, yes, but also safety to think outside the box without a fear of consequences. I once had a poignant conversation with an AUB history professor. He was teaching a course on religious history, and we were covering an entire unit on the hermetic strains of that religion. I couldn't understand why we were reading these writings, why the professor was exposing us to such untruths. When I explained my concerns to him one day in the office, he tilted his head to the side. Isn't this what AUB is all about, he asked? To expose students to everything that is out there? That way, in the safety of the classroom, they can sift through it, deciding for themselves what is right and wrong. This conversation reinforces what I believe to be one of the great values of AUB. It is a forum as much as it is an educational institution. It is a place to explore new ideas, no matter what they may be, and come up with our own conclusions. This forum allows us to pursue truths that may be deeper than us, as we look at ourselves in the context of our society and in the mixture of people from all the different religious, political, and social backgrounds. AUB allows light precisely because it is a place where one can say, I want to get to ask hard questions so that I can demand honest answers for myself. I want to be challenged, to explore the unknown, the uncertain, frightening though it may be. I want to seek that which is true. No doubt, AUB students have and will continue to go out into the world and become leaders and agents of change in our fields, whether it be in politics, medicine, business, science, the arts, or the social work. But more than that, I believe this university will continue to impact Lebanon and the region because it creates a space for students to ask these tough questions in a safe environment. Unfortunately, a type of forum like this is becoming increasingly rare in the Arab region. What role should AUB play in the decades to come? It should continue to be a place of safety for students to explore and to question, to inspire future leaders to challenge the status quo and translate noble ideas into action. AUB should continue to provide light, no matter how dark the region or the world around it becomes. Thank you.
So this is a certificate made out to Elena Holgerson, the Founders Day Ceremony Student Essay Contest second place award, and a copy of the Moore collection. Congratulations, Elena.
Thank you.
I'll get better at this. Okay, I'll get better at this. So the first place winner is, you can start coming up, Nizar. Awarded to Nizar Awad, majoring in biology in the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, for his essay, Legacy of a Titan. Congratulations, Nizar. So Nizar will read his essay entitled Legacy of a Titan, and then we will give him his certificate, this time with deference to the photographers.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. President, for your introduction. I want to take this opportunity to thank all my friends and professors who came here today for support. And as it's in my last semester at the EB as well, it comes as a great privilege to be in this event. I believe this form of initiatives only express EB's commitment towards the culture of expressive communication and liberal education. Thank you. So my essay is entitled Legacy of the Titan. A trait that this university has long embodied is the ever-active pursuit of progress, a pursuit that never settles. Over an inspiring history of 150 years, AUB has grown to become a beacon for discourse and diversity that the region seeks to elevate. The conversations that take place on this very campus have shaped movements of millions, and those who walk these hallowed halls have gone on to mold the world as we know it. Today, AUB represents an ideal embedded in the motto that crowns its entrance, that we should not and will not accept less, that we will not settle for what is easy or convenient, but will continue to strive for lives of abundance. A spring not so long ago showed the world that the Arabs wanted more. When people flooded the squares, risking their lives for the sake of change, they sought nothing less than freedom, dignity, and prosperity. The spring's great challenge, however, was to find a substitute for the collapsing regimes, an ideological paradigm that would achieve the goals of these long-awaited revolutions. However, our fragile history of political practice and lack of democratic culture allowed the emergence of an ideological vacuum that gave way to the rise of two extremes: regressive movements that exploit democracy to marginalize liberties, and revived forms of military-backed dictatorships that we as Arabs never missed. This confusing mess of destructive forces brought what is even more tragic: brutal civil wars, displacements of millions, and rise in fanatic fundamentalism. Just days ago, the world mourned the devastation. Hundreds of Russian, Lebanese, Iraqi, and French civilians. The world understood that almost no one is immune, and dark, violent thoughts took over the minds of the human race. But why am I saying this here and now, at the Founders' Day ceremony of the American University of Beirut? That is because, although the story is more complicated, it all started with an ideological vacuum. And what would AUB's role be, if not to pioneer the struggle towards mainstreaming the desperately needed culture of democracy, tolerance, and diversity? Going back to 2012, when I first got here, someone told me, what the AUB is, the Middle East seeks to become. It wasn't long until I was first struck by the undeniable truth of this idea. In 2013, while the Lebanese government was denying its citizens the right to vote with the first suspension of parliamentary elections, we at AUB were experiencing what a competitive but democratic process is through student elections. While in my country, freedom of expression was shut under the pretext of preserving stability, I, among thousands of students, felt safe and encouraged to cast a ballot and disclose my views freely. When my country saw only numbers and citizens, I was experiencing for the first time what it means to have my individuality appreciated, to have the right not only to raise the voice and participate in decision-making, but also to influence others and experience leadership. Said otherwise, I discovered what active citizenship is about. While the typical perception of university is a safe haven that is meant to prepare students for harsher but similar realities, AUB has rather grown to become the idealistic endpoint for what our society needs to grow into by offering students what their countries cannot offer. Yet, AUB must not settle for this achievement. While our progress towards excellence is to be praised, there is one conundrum that cannot be ignored. Many see AUB as a city inside the city, a green piece inside the land of concrete, another world in the heart of Beirut. On May 7, 2008, when AUB students were learning about pluralism and social cohesion and conflict resolution, 100 meters away, the sky was raining bullets and Lebanon was on the verge of another civil war. And that is why I am worried. I am worried because while AUB stands as a bastion for democracy and diversity, there is a risk that it becomes disconnected from its surrounding. Today, AUB is challenged to lead initiatives to reconnect with the outside world and replicate the on-campus experiences in the culture, politics, and policy-making of local communities outside. This can be achieved through initiatives like our Beirut initiative, or through introducing co-curricular educational requirements to ensure authentic social integration and to implement a sense of responsibility as well as obligation to change in the working ethos of this new generation. However, to achieve this, another challenge is to be faced, that of protecting diversity. With the financial situation becoming tighter and the administration's commitment to continuous improvement, students are expected to share the burden. The continuous rise in tuition is inarguably an enormous barrier in front of prospective students who come from middle-class backgrounds. And without any drastic change, AUB is in peril of becoming a hub for an economic elite, and that is definitely not in harmony with its founder's mission. This is alarming not only due to the real damage brought about by the loss of diversity, but also because it might hamper AUB's ability to connect with the local context, which again is a requirement to achieving any kind of mobility-stimulating influence. And this is not to mention the risk to lose AUB's unique identity and socio-geographic relevance. Protecting diversity should not merely be a concern, but rather a base for AUB's agenda for the future if it seeks to maintain its leadership. This is because the two levels in which an educational institution's influence is best displayed are the features of its leaders and the relevance of its publication and policy orientation. And AUB will only contribute to real positive mobility if its graduate process and authentic understanding of the Lebanese and Middle Eastern context, and if its faculty's intellectual contributions are inspired by the situation's reality and directed to achieve impact away from dogmas and irrelevancies. 3 years ago, I was living in a small village in the southeast of Lebanon, where young people's biggest dreams were to live in Beirut. I was not concerned with or aware of any uprisings happening in the region, nor did I ever grasp the concepts of democracy, tolerance, or diversity. Last summer, I found myself attending courses with Columbia University of New York on democracy in the Middle East. Today, I consider this not an achievement in itself, but rather one small step forward in a world full of untapped opportunities. Because I had the chance to step into AUB, what I never dreamt of having, or rather becoming, I now perceive as evident. As I think of this at AUB's 150th anniversary, I cannot but express my fear that other students of my country might not have a similar chance for mobility. However, I am also nothing but confident that we, the people who care about this institution, can together reverse the trend and make sure that no matter where they're born, they may have life and have it more abundant.
حلو. نعم بس كلهم هون بيحكوا بدهم يروحوا يعملوا مصاري. I'm going to hold you to that when you're a consultant. The first check, you're going to make a donation to AUB. I was just telling Nizar, I'm going to make sure that his first check, he makes a donation to AUB, so he walks what he talks. As I did. So Nizar Faisal Awad, we are proud to give you the first place awarded essay for the student essay contest for the 149. Congratulations. Great job. Very inspiring. Keep it up. I believe we have a musical interlude coming up. Nizar, you forgot your book and your check, which I'm sure you'll return to us manyfold. Okay. We are really privileged today. Oh, I'm slow because of the check. So we are very privileged today to have music by Elia Francis, who's going to perform Nasum Dorma and Questa o Quella. This is one of my favorite pieces. Puccini and Verdi, and two wonderful essays from students. Thank you again, Mr. Francis. Hard to follow that, but we'll try, and we're going to do something a little different this year. We've included some PowerPoint slides. Don't sneeze or you'll miss something. Your Excellencies, members of the Board of Trustees, faculty, students, staff, both of my Deans Emeriti, and honored guests, good afternoon. I'm going to give you a quick recap of the past 150 years, which will be highly impressionistic. So don't be upset if your name is left out. Most likely it will be. Borders have been drawn and redrawn, and of the 195 present-day sovereign nations, only about 60 existed in 1866. Women have gone from having no vote in any nation to almost full suffrage everywhere. The Earth's population has more than tripled. And in terms of technological advances, well, the big news in 1866 was the laying of the first permanent telegraph cable between Europe and North America. But here at AUB, the changes have been smaller in scale, but no less dramatic. On this day in 1871, Daniel Bliss said, "This college is for all conditions and classes of men, without regard to color, nationality, race, or religion. A man, white, black, or yellow, Christian, Jew, Mohammedan, or heathen, may enter and enjoy all the advantages of this institution for 3, 4, or 8 years, and go out believing in one God, in many gods, or in no God. But it will be impossible for anyone to continue with us long without knowing what we believe to be the truth and our reasons for that belief." Where else but in Lebanon's uniquely diverse and tolerant society could Daniel Bliss have sought to fulfill these goals? Where else could AUB and its liberal influence have flourished so vibrantly? 150 years ago, this university was founded by missionaries in a house with a freshman class of 16 and a distinctly faith-based raison d'etre. The language of instruction was Arabic, but accepted students were expected to know or learn English and French. Today, we are a large, emphatically secular, American-style liberal arts college and research institution with nearly 9,000 students, almost perfectly divided between women and men, and more than 60,000 graduates in practically every country on earth. And as you just heard from our graduates, all 60,000 of them believe they can make a difference, and that is a good thing. Most of us here know the what of AUB. It's a good story, one often told, one worth repeating and celebrating. During the coming year, you will hear a great deal and see a great deal about our history and accomplishments, the people and events woven into our fabric. What I want to consider today is the how and the why of AUB. How did the Syrian Protestant College, the germ of which originated in a small seminary school in Abay, endure to become the American University of Beirut? How did we come to be so instrumental in virtually every social movement, every scientific advance, every literary and artistic feat in the Arab world? Why, we must ask ourselves, as you heard from our students, are we still here? How are we relevant today? And how will we continue to be relevant tomorrow? Through world wars, through the forging of new nations and the foregoing of old ones, and the fall of empires, through a civil war that nearly dismantled this country, how have we remained a force to be reckoned with? The answer, quite simply, is that this university, its leaders and its faculty, its staff and students, have always preferred to shape events rather than be shaped by them, to act rather than be acted on. For the past 150 years, we have stood for the highest ideals, even and perhaps especially when to do otherwise would have been far easier. We have stood for engaged leadership. Describing the years immediately following World War I, then AUB President Penrose wrote, "The call came from Lebanon and Syria, Palestine and Transjordan, Iraq, Arabia, Bahrain and Kuwait, Persia, Ethiopia, Zanzibar, and the Sudan. It came to the American University of Beirut with special force because for 58 years, the college had been supplying just the kind of men who were needed. What they were needed for was the building of nothing less than nations emerging from under Ottoman control. To be the teachers, doctors, pharmacists, engineers, economists, and political scientists, to quote Penrose, who would leave their indelible mark on the world. To date, no other institution in history has educated more presidents, more prime ministers, members of parliaments, and other influential political figures in the Arab world than AUB. Faris al-Khouri, a graduate and later instructor at AUB, was instrumental in founding the modern Syrian state and twice served as prime minister in the 1940s and 1950s. Alumnus Ismail al-Azhari became prime minister of Sudan in 1954 and later president. Charles Malik, alumnus and professor and philosopher, I might add, helped draft the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, one of the most important documents of the modern era, affirming that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. The current president of Afghanistan, Ashraf Ghani, graduated from AUB in 1973 with a degree in political studies. But as Penrose notes, it's not only the politicians who forge societies. After listing the many high-profile positions filled by AUB graduates in the Arab world, he writes, "Such a list omits any reference to the much larger number of municipal officers, civil servants, and teachers. It does not mention the entrepreneurs, the businessmen, farmers, and professional men, and I will add here, women, who have contributed largely to the development of national life in their respective countries." Think about this for a minute. We have helped develop societies from the ground up. Today, we continue to shape the physical and economic landscape of the Middle East in remarkable ways, and we've done this for many years through the vision and influence of alumni like Emil al-Bustani, founder of CAT, former trustee Kamal al-Sha'ir, founder of Dar al-Handasa, and members of the Sabbagh and Khouri families who formed Consolidated Contractors Company while at AUB. At the same time, the work of Samir Maqdisi has been hugely influential in our understanding of the economies of the Arab world. And through studies on novel technologies and those applied to society's neediest, AUB continues to lead the way in developing new approaches to societies in turmoil and in transformation. This is part of our monumental legacy that makes this university unlike any other in the world. The building blocks of civil society all over the Arab world, the food that citizens eat, the buildings they live in, the schools their children attend, can be traced back to the knowledge, skills, and tenacity that countless men and women developed here at AUB. We have stood for gender equality. It's hard for us to imagine today the incredible boldness of the decision by the administration in 1924 to admit women and make AUB a coeducational institution. Remember, this was a struggle in the 1960s at Yale and Harvard, 40 years later. This was some 50 years before Harvard, Yale, and Princeton opened their own doors to women. In the United States at the time, as in this part of the world, the possibility of having women in classes with men was widely viewed as being damaging to students of both sexes, perhaps immoral, perhaps seditionistic. AUB's radical move was a sign of things to come. In the next few years, AUB graduated female students in pharmacy, dentistry, the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, midwifery, business, and in 1931, the first female medical doctor, Adma Abu Shdid. 5 years later, in 1938, the mother of our esteemed chair of the Board of Trustees, Philip Khouri, became AUB's first female instructor. Angela Jarda Khouri taught sociology and went on to become Lebanon's first woman diplomat, in addition to numerous other prestigious positions and honors. Today, and for the past 3 decades, women have outnumbered men in nearly every incoming class at this university. For them, as for their trailblazing forebears, AUB is an incubator for creativity, a remover of obstacles, and an enabler of ambition, the kind of ambition you heard from a young man and a young woman today. We see this in women like Salma Makarim, class of 1958, who revitalized AUB's School of Nursing in the early 1990s and founded the Lebanese Order of Nurses in 2002. Women like Zaha Hadid, who began as a mathematics major at AUB and went on to become the world-renowned architect behind such celebrated works as the Maxi National Museum in Rome, the London Olympics, and our own IFI building. Women like Dima Jamali, who holds a chair in the Ulayan School of Business and who's been recognized as a major advocate for corporate social responsibility. And women like engineer Ayab Dair, class of 2004, a leader of the open source hardware movement and founder and CEO of LittleBits, an innovative modular electronics company. Like so many of you who work in what are still heavily male-dominated industries, these women were beneficiaries of a long-held belief in gender equality at this institution. As such, we've established the task force on the lives and careers of women faculty at AUB, co-chaired by Dr. Huwaid Al-Harithi and Dr. Huda Zray. We have had 2 women deans, 3 women associate provosts, and numerous women chairs, but we can do better. So the task force will explore the gender discrepancies in well-being, in income, in leadership, in recruitment, and in opportunities for academic advancement. What it will ask are the obstacles to achieving full gender equality. Because as we know, without true gender parity, a university and more importantly, a society cannot fully progress. We have stood for service in times of great need. This 20th century provided no shortage of opportunities for AUB to prove the sincerity and the efficacy of its public service ethos. For example, the humanitarian work of the doctors at this university has been well documented, including in the 1912 Battle of Beirut between the Ottoman and the Italian forces. The college took in refugees and its doctors worked as medics to treat the wounded. During World War I, Syrian Protestant College doctors, nurses, and medical students were central to Red Cross relief efforts. What we today call AUBMC has time and again served as a war hospital, staffed by doctors and nurses who have made great personal sacrifices in the face of dwindling supplies at great personal risk to be able to keep up with the ever-growing scale of each catastrophe. Lebanon's civil war was the inferno out of which AUB's humanitarian spirit emerged crystallized. As our own Cynthia Minty, Ramiz Ray, and Munir Mabsout documented in a well-known 2009 article about AUB's public service legacy, it was no small feat to keep the university open during the war amid damage to infrastructure, unthinkable violence both outside and within the university walls, and the near impossibility of maintaining the necessary faculty and staff. But they add, AUB records also describe heroic voluntary efforts to keep the hospital emergency room functioning when it was too dangerous for essential staff to get to Ras Beirut, or when displaced persons were cared for in West Hall during the Israeli invasion of 1982. And when feasible, some faculties continued community-based research. The Faculty of Health Sciences, for instance, conducted epidemiological research, surveillance, disease control activities, and particularly the monitoring of drinking water quality, evaluation of services, and research on the effects of war on the Lebanese population. From this has emerged a vision for our School of Health Sciences to be at the forefront of schools worldwide, studying the impact of war on society's health, on their well-being, which I think is exactly the kind of bold and visionary statement that the students, the faculty, and the staff expect. Accounts such as these read more like descriptions of government and aid agencies, not a university. As an institution, we've never doubted the notion that we exist for the benefit of the people around us or questioned the size of our role and responsibilities. A Wall Street Journal article from June of this year entitled "Beirut Hospital Offers Hope for Civilians Injured in Iraq, Syria," details some of the ways we continue to take this role very seriously and innovate new methods to serve those who need it most. The article states, the hospital is using cutting-edge technology to treat blast wound patients from Iraq and Syria as it seeks to position itself as a global leader in conflict medicine, a growing field in light of the continuing violence in the Middle East and the mass migration to Europe of refugees, many of them war wounded. Later this year, the medical center's doctors plan to test a device that would enable them to virtually guide and assist in surgeries being performed in conflict zones. That such stunning technological advances in the field of medicine are being used to care for the region's most vulnerable makes them a true testament to what we stand for. Today, from the Arik Farm's contributions to the development of agriculture in the Beqa, to the mission of the Center for Civic Engagement and Community Service, to scholarships for refugees, we do continue to take as a given our unflagging obligation to the societies and peoples that both sustain us and need us. We have stood for groundbreaking intellectual and artistic accomplishment in the Arab world. Cornelius van Dyck is known for being one of the founding fathers of the Syrian Protestant College and for establishing the medical school. I should correct that to say the founding professors. I think we all know there was one founder, and that was Daniel Bliss. A true polymath, he was also a tremendously important scholar of Arabic who contributed a wide range of Arabic textbooks for use in Syrian schools, as well as texts for medical students. Most famously, he created Arabic translations of the Old and New Testaments, and along with Ya'ub Sarruf, Butros al-Bastani, Nasif al-Yazaji, and Yusuf al-Asir, all of them leading figures in Al-Nahda al-Arabiya, he helped blaze the path forward for an important new step for the Arab world. In doing so, Van Dyck contributed meaningfully to laying the groundwork for extraordinary revivals of Arab intellectual and scientific achievement. So the first 50 years of the university were a galvanizing time in this part of the world. As you can see before you, some of the preliminary texts for An-Nahda were authored at AUB. The Nahda took shape in the late 19th century. It built the momentum to the widespread movement of Arab-initiated reform. It was a time of prodigious productivity and innovation in literature, journalism, and political thought. The beauty and importance of the Arabic language were reaffirmed. Dr. Haddadin reaffirms them to me almost every day. And as you would expect, AUB and Lebanon were a crucible for some of the most original and game-changing intellectual work being done anywhere at the time, during the Nahda and beyond. Philip Khoury Hitti, who graduated in 1908, is considered the father of modern Arabic studies. Constantin Zrey, class of 1928, was a proponent of secular nationalism in the Arab world and an original thinker who originated the concept of the Palestinian Nakba. Ghassan Twaini, class of 1945, here giving the 1970 Founders Day address, served as editor-in-chief of Nahar and came to be known as internationally renowned journalist. Ghada al-Samman, class of 1965, did her graduate work in theater here back when we had a thriving theater program, and has written acclaimed novels about Beirut during the Civil War. And believe me, we will reinvigorate AUB's theater program. And inextricable from the war is the tragic poet Khalil Hawi, a celebrated poet who committed suicide in 1982 upon the Israeli invasion. In his poem entitled Al-Bahar wa Darwish, and I'm going to take the poetic license of someone from the Lebanese diaspora so I can interpret Arabic poetry any way I want, he says, هات خبر عن كنوز سمرت عينيك في الغيب العميق طرقات الأرض مهما تتناءى عند بابي تنهي كل طريق. Was every road ending anywhere else other than AUB intellectually? So I believe whether he meant it or not, I choose to interpret him as meaning this is the font of all knowledge. Artistic license. Coming of age a decade after Hawi, historian Kamal Salibi, class of 1949, wrote essential texts on the history of Lebanon and the region. In 1953, he returned to AUB, where he spent more than 30 years in the Department of History and Archaeology, where it was my great pleasure and privilege to watch his politics evolve this way and that. Samir Khalaf, a contemporary of Salibi's, no less productive, has also made critical contributions to our understanding of Lebanon and the impact of the university on Ras Beirut, and still teaches at AUB. Azzat Tannous and George Habash, here pictured in their AUB days, major architects of Palestinian nationalism with different views, were among the many who found their inspiration here. As the bastion of academic free speech and progressive thought in the Arab world, this university has always had a place for unconventional and even radical thought, and I'm here to assure you that it always will. Our academic and intellectual leaders have helped transform a broad spectrum of modern Arab thought and politics. It is actually precisely for this reason that we sought to restore tenure, as approved recently by the board. This critical development will help us to attract the brightest minds in their respective fields and support the faculty we already have, who are in fact upholding the standards of their predecessors. Here are three great books by some of our outstanding scholars: philosophy Professor Raymond Bressier, historian Nadia al-Sheikh, and Arabic scholar Ramzi Baalbaki. And they continue to provide testament to the vibrancy of the intellectual culture of this university. And there are many, many others, past and present. This is a snapshot. Scholars and artists of exceptional stature, to whom we owe our understanding of the world, of who we are, and how we fit into the big picture, individually and collectively. They set their critical eyes to the society around us and help us know ourselves. After all, this is the promise and the importance of the humanities. We have stood for pioneering research at this university. The liberal arts seek answers to difficult questions. It's a mode of education that's particularly conducive to exploration. And the cornerstone of all great research is the will and the willingness to explore. Across all faculties at this university, difficult questions have always been pursued. Dr. George Post was a professor of medicine at the Syrian Protestant College, an accomplished botanist who in 1983 published The Flora of Syria, Palestine, and Sinai. To this day, it is the definitive work on the plant life native to the region. Complementing the book is the incredible Post herbarium, which remains one of the few herbaria in the region and the only one in Lebanon. Housed there are more than 20,000 specimens. The importance of this collection and the work that has gone into it cannot be overstated. Its usefulness extends to medicine, to ecology, to conservation, to biology, to agriculture, even arguably to fine arts. Its interdisciplinary implications and its significance are enormous. No doubt ICARDA had exactly this legacy in mind when they entrusted AUB this year with the safekeeping of the doomsday seeds, a choice with enormous implications for the future of health and well-being of the region. So it is with all important research. It should make a difference. It should leave an imprint. Raja Khouri, my father, was a pioneer in the field of renal physiology. Adil Afifi in neuroscience, Sohail Jabbour in neurophysiology. Each of these men not only influenced how we heal our patients, but was instrumental in shaping our institutional commitment to impactful research. And our impact has been undeniable. The famed Beirut reaction discovered by Makhlouf Haddadin and late AUB Professor Emeritus Kostas Isidoridis was implemented by Pfizer to enhance the safety of animal feed. Alan Shahadi and Najat Salibi have led a groundbreaking study on the impact of emissions and inhalational exposures. And their goal is to seek to convert knowledge into public policy. Speaking of converting knowledge into public policy, Emmanuel had spent many years studying these very effects on poor child labor conditions in Lebanon. In 2012, Dr. Nwahid's findings ultimately resulted in the passage of Decree 8987 that prohibits children under 18 from working in hazardous environments in Lebanon. This is not a universal condition. This is something we are proud of. At the Issam Ferris Institute, the lived realities of refugees and internally displaced persons is being documented as part of an ongoing research project that aims to influence the way we discuss and try to ameliorate the refugee situation. In the Faculty of Engineering and Architecture alone, we have more than 30 state-of-the-art laboratories whose students and faculty are pursuing research questions in hydraulics, fiber optics, microprocessing, robotics, fluid mechanics, and renewable energy, to name just a few. This is an extraordinary faculty, and we're witnessing cutting-edge work by faculty members in robotics. Here is an example of really cutting-edge work by Ahmad Al-Hajj, which seeks to move things electronically forward. The next slide shows work by Rabi' Jaber, looking at new ways using smart grids to develop sustainable energy. And the slide after that shows collaborations led by Zahir Dawi, which are trying to develop new technologies to meaningfully predict and impact epilepsy. But we have not strayed from our classical roots. This is work done by Samar Damlouji to understand the implications of design consistencies and variations in Islamic cities in the Middle East. So our faculty are investigating fundamental questions about how to create environments in which human beings don't just survive, but they thrive. We're creating and disseminating the knowledge needed in the region to make the Arab world more reliant on Arab expertise. At AUBMC, we're finding ways to address head-on the evolving medical needs of the world, to be proactive as well as reactive. And yes, we are competitive in research. Our research is there and is getting stronger. We have major pioneers in the fields of diabetes in Fuad Ziad in the middle, leukemia in Ali Bazarbashi, and multiple sclerosis in Samia Khoury. And these are just a few examples of the pioneers that we have here. There's so many, many more doing such critical work. But 150 years in 30 minutes is no small feat. What you should take from this glimpse at our history is both a sense of pride, but also, as you heard from our students, a sense of urgency. We have a lot of work to do. So what is this work that needs to be done? With such a heritage, where do we go from here? What do we stand for today? To begin with, we need to continue the work that has already been started, and we need to continue it emphatically and freely. So we're profoundly grateful to the Board of Trustees, with Philip Khoury and Huda Zoghbi pictured here, who have now reinstated tenure, a monumental decision, so that we can once again be a magnet and a safeguard for the greatest minds working today in the world. We need to revive the AUB Press, which was once a thriving and prolific publisher of pivotal titles. And I've empowered Mona Harb to look far and wide to develop a world-class AUB Press so that we can again become competitive to publish her textbook and that of Nadia Al-Sheikh, their next textbooks. We need to stay at the forefront of pedagogical innovations, using all the tools available to us in the ever-shifting technological frontier, and to reestablish AUB's preeminence in the humanities in the Arab world. When I was visiting Nabil Dajani recently, I was a little bit dismayed to see the old classroom that I was taught civilization sequence in looked identical to the classroom that I was in almost 33 years ago. We have to evolve to thrive. We need to reestablish AUB's preeminence in the humanities in the Arab world. That's not a choice. And we need to continue to make AUB MC world-class, to compete on a global level through centers of excellence, to make an even greater impact on the region. Finally, we need to make AUB more accessible. You've heard it from our students. More accessible than ever to the best and the brightest students and scholars everywhere, irrespective of their economic situation, so that we can become an institution that we have always been and must always aspire to be, one that attracts outstanding scholars from all walks of life, so that they can be transformed by their experience here, and that their impact and ours continues to disseminate far beyond our walls and reach beyond the limits of their and our imaginations. A legacy such as ours should always inspire us to take more risks, to deepen our culture of community service, from the humblest Lebanese villages to the neediest Syrian and Palestinian refugees. and we must dare to live up to the lofty ideals of the many who have gone before, a few of whom I've shown you today. The stakes have always been great at AUB, as have the challenges. We in the AUB community would not have it any other way. Thank you very much. Where we long to be, far away beyond the east, far beyond sun, rising always to the heavens, like a glorious sheet. Look before us, shout the chorus, see the banner wave. May you be in thee we glory, make us true and brave.